Okay. So let's think about something specific, and we can perhaps look at something like sort of like a problem let me switch the color here. Specific problem domain, right? And in this problem domain, I can have purchase orders. I can have sale of a list of items, right? And if this items is a collection of items, then I have individual items being sold, right? Individual items. Sometimes they are actually called like a line item. Line item, right? So the sale has items. Items are line items of individual sale. An item has some kind of like code, description, and price, maybe, right? Its current price. And eventually we complete the sale, right? At the cash register somewhere in the store or something like that, right? And or it could be an online purchase, and we can also have an aspect of shipping the order, right? So we can have also shipping order, right? And shipping order needs to be fulfilled, right? And shipping order has to have a set maybe of shipping labels. If we use third-party, even if we use our own shipping and own our own trucks, we can still print shipping labels which are snapped on actual boxes, right? Shipping labels with then, individual labels printed and things like that. So this kind of problem domain, like purchase and sale environment, whether online or in store, like brick and mortar or combination. Okay, so those kind of things. So take for instance a sale, which is an instance of either trying to fulfill the purchase order or an actual customer walking to the store, grabbing the items, walking to the cash register and saying, I want to buy those things, right? So for example, this sale naturally, and I'll just use a little fainter essentially drawing here, is to say that it has the total, right? The total price, because we want to calculate the total price that we want to charge. It may also calculate the tax of sale, right? Sales tax. It can also keep track of the number of items, right? Number of items, things like that. All of these, which naturally easy to think about an instant of sale of multiple items, combination of items, basically present as some sort of a state, right? So this is the state of objects such as sale, okay? And that state changes as we move through stages of this sale being, accumulating these items, computing the total price, computing the final tax, and then keeping track of the count of items and things like that, right? So we say that all of this contributes to the state. By the way, at some point it can be canceled. Or someone says, oh, I forgot my credit card in my car. I'd just like to leave these things and I'll come back later on, right? So all of a sudden, at any point, you can cancel it, right? So we can also have a more specific type of data attribute inside the sale that can say specifically state, right? And then state can be initialized, calculating, complete, or canceled, right? Sometimes maybe you don't want to dispose of all of this information, but maybe you want to store a record of it, but it could say that the sale was canceled and never was completed. To proceed to the actual payment. By the way, another aspect of it is payments, right? Payment needs to be happening at the time of sale, or we can basically accept purchase orders with different terms and say that, send an invoice, right? Send out an invoice. And you can say that you can pay this invoice in like 30 days. Right? It doesn't have to happen right away. You trust this customer, and you can charge them within or expect them to pay within 30 days. Okay, so at the time of the sale, the payment may not even exist because it'll happen later on. Right? You can see that all the data that we manage supposed to go in the right place. Right? So you don't want to store, right? You don't want to store the code of item, the description of item, and the price of item directly in the sale. That's just purely inconvenient. Where are you going to store it? Are you going to create like a separate set of variables for it? Well, no, you already have the collection of items, and the collection of items supposed to be populated with individual items, and in each individual item will have the kind of data, right? So placing that data should be, equates to amount of our experience, our understanding of the problem domain, our understanding of the processes involved, and so therefore, but eventually when we do things properly, all of the data ultimately constitute to the state of each object that we have to deal with, right? So this is where we say that object is an entity of the state, and state of an object is a combination of all data fields which are initialized, populated typically by the constructor of an object, and then over the life cycle of that object, the state may change, right? It can go through stages that we can quite recognize. Okay, so a great example of an object with state is, of course, the elevator in the building, right? Which is moving up, moving down, stationary. The doors can be opening and closing. We can just say that, as the doors are still open, you cannot go to moving state. First, you have to close the doors. Then you can start moving. Right, so the state really helps to control sometimes the machinery, sometimes parts of the components of the software, and so forth. And the behavior is what is a combination of things that can be done internally with an object. For instance, a constructor could look at the input parameters that were being provided, right, to the list of parameters to the constructor, and realize that one of the values is really something which isn't valid, and it could throw an exception or produce some kind of error, right? So that is internal reaction to some data that was provided to the constructor, and it could react, could refuse to do something meaningful with it. By the way, throwing exceptions from constructors, generally speaking, is a bad idea, especially in C++, because when constructor throws an exception in C++, the destructor is never invoked, and people do rely on the pair of constructor and destructor a lot, and so it's typically not a good way to program, but still it can happen. It can happen in software, right? So internal behaviors, right, and simple validations like that, or internal computations. For instance, as you add each item, the sale object automatically updates its total price, right? It's just incremented by the amount of the price of the individual item. It can be happening internally. You don't have to externally say it, oh, by the way, don't forget to update the total. Well, it happens internally, right? So the behaviors can be internal, but the external things are what you can do with an object. that externally can say, start the sale, add line item, complete the sale, cancel the sale. So these external things are obviously externally available behaviors of an object.